So my faith background, growing up as a kid, my family did not grow up attending churches, and we did not talk about God. Which later in life, found myself not wanting to attend churches. I always felt I wasn't good enough because of the things that I had done. And later in life, I found myself not knowing who God was, or even that He had a son named Jesus.
Growing up, we didn't talk about God. I had a little exposure to religion through friends, but I learned pretty early on that was not a place that I felt connected to God, so it kind of left me thinking that I believed in God, but not religion.
So I was drawn to Christianity when I learned that I didn't have to be perfect to be accepted. I was scared that as soon as people knew the real me, that I'd be instantly become an outcast. But when I learned that God still loved me with all my mistakes, and that Jesus came to this world to die and make us free, I stopped trying to be perfect, and I found out that I can be loved by others just the way I am.
As my husband and I started trying for a family, we struggled, and that left me with some questions. And when we finally had kids, it strengthened that feeling in me that there must be a creator, but I didn't know I could have a relationship with God. I thought more about Him as I struggled with what will I teach my kids. After some more difficult times for our family, it was finally time to start looking for a church, and I realized that there were options with churches, and luckily we found JVC.
A couple of weeks after a good friend of mine committed suicide, my wife approached me with the idea of attending church, just so we could find some answers. And I wasn't sure about how I felt about it, but she told me that she found a church online and that she had already reached out to the pastor and that they were expecting us.
I found JVC online. I listened to some sermons and studied the website before we finally decided. One morning it was time to pull my husband out of bed as I watched him slipping more into depression. I dragged him along, and when we got here, everybody was so warm and welcoming. They truly, genuinely cared for us, and they welcomed our questions, and they pointed us to Jesus.
The day of, I did not want to go, but I'm glad I did, because as soon as I walked in the door, I felt that our lives had just changed forever. Our first visit to JVC was great. As we walked in the door, Pastor John was there to greet us, and I knew as soon as I met him that he was a very genuine person and that he truly cared for everyone that he knew. He was very welcoming and made sure that we felt welcome. And I knew we were going to be friends when he pointed us to the coffee. That day we met many great people, and 2 years later, we're still coming, and those great people that we met that day, I now consider family. So I've felt God at work in my life in many different ways, and in Romans chapter 12, it talks about being transformed by the renewing of our minds. And for many years, I consumed myself with worry and depression and just not feeling like I was, good enough, just self-mistreatment, say. And it started to, transform out of me in a way that wasn't kind to others. It affected the way I treated people, my family. But as these last 2 years have unfolded, God has worked in me to transform me and renew my thinking of, to not worry so much, to not try to control life, and to just be kind and love people like He loves me, and show mercy to others like God showed mercy to me. As time goes on, I have just kind of sit back and learn to trust in God's plan and not try to control the things I cannot control.
I finally found that I can and do have a personal relationship with God. I feel His love, His reassurance, His guidance, and I see how God is working in my family. I see my husband changing. I see my kids changing. I see prayer being incorporated into our lives, and how it's working in we're able to see that. I'm also starting to understand little by little the things that I read in the Bible and see how important they are.
To people who are new, on their journey to faith, once you know, you're not alone. I think there's always somebody willing to walk with you on your journey, and at times it may seem very difficult to continue, but just don't lose hope. Just keep trusting in the path that you've been put on, and it's going to be okay.
I would say if you're starting a journey of faith, you're here for a reason. Take that first step. Come in, ask your questions. We are all broken. We're all weary. We're all burdened. But Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest."